Hi everyone, I'm Lisa and welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I've got a card for you today using those happy birthday Thinlits again, and this time it's a great 3D effect, both with the words and with the color. Here's the card. I'm excited to get you over to the stamp table so you can get a good close-up look at it, but it's really a lot easier than it looks. We're going to be using the white chalk marker as well to create some fun accents. Remember too, you can find all the pictures, the supplies, and the cutting dimensions for today's card over on my blog. The link is right here on the YouTube page. By clicking the I button here at the top, it will navigate you right to my blog post so that it's easy to find. Let's get over to the stamp table and let's get started. Can you see the shadow that I created here with the die and the two-tone image of the greeting? I'm really excited to show you how to do this. We're going to start with a piece of Pool Party cardstock. You're going to find all the cutting dimensions for today's project over on my blog. If you're here from YouTube, go ahead and click on that I button here at the top. That information button will send you right over to my blog, right to this blog post where you can get the picture and see the dimensions really easily. Because this piece of paper is rather long, I like to score it versus folding it because I don't like those little cracks in my cardstock. So 5.5 is going to be the halfway point. My light blade here on the trimmer is going to score, so I'm going to score that. The great thing about the Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer is it also does include the trimming blade or the cutting blade as well. Got a whole video about that product over on my YouTube channel. Just type it in and Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer and it should come right up. I'm a big fan of that bone folder for that nice crisp crease that we're looking for when we're stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and put that card base to the side. I've cut a piece of Whisper white cardstock to do our stamping. And I've got a couple ink pads that I'm going to be using. I've got Pool Party and Pear Pizzazz. I'm also using a birthday stamp set. I'm actually using Balloon Celebrations. It's been around for a couple years now. Love the balloons, and I love the fact that it's two-step, which means you can put the helium dots over the images. And of course, outlines in case you want to color them in or stamp them on designer paper. So I've got the large balloon and the small balloon both mounted on clear blocks, and I love that they're photopolymer, which is going to make it really easy for you to stamp and see. So I'm going to start with a large one in that Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to stamp that here near the bottom, so I've got one large one here, and then I'm going to ink it up again, and this time I'm going to stamp it a little bit closer to the top, offsetting it. So what we're doing is just creating a little bit of a background. Set that aside, and now here comes the Pool Party. And I'm going to stamp another one over to the side and another one here near the top. And if they overlap, that's fine. In that same stamp set, there is this really thin stripe, which is actually the string for the balloon. So I'm going to ink them up in the appropriate colors to the balloon. And so I'm going to just tap very gently because I don't want ink on all those negative sides. And then I'm just going to come in here and line it up the best that I can and stamp. So I've got one there, and if they overlap, that's fine. Then I've got another here, and then this one I'm going to go a little bit off to the side. I don't want it to hang right over that balloon. I'm cleaning off my stamp just off camera with the Stampin' Scrub. It's like doing the dishes for your stamps. It's really fabulous. Making sure my block isn't oversaturated since this is a really tiny image. And now I'm inking it up in the pear again, and then I'm going to fill in the remaining balloons here. And I'm going to tip that just to try to keep away from that as much as we can. So now we've got those. I wanted to give my balloons a little extra added dimension. So I'm using the white chalk marker. I really like this. I'm going to try to get started here on my scratch paper. So I've got a nice flow of color. And I'll bring you in just a little closer so you can see better. So I'm going to add some dimension by doing a line and a dot, and then a line and a dot. And I'm going to do the same thing on all the balloons here. And I am choosing to do it all on the same side or relatively the same side just for some dimension. Gives it a little bit of color too, don't you think? We're going to go ahead and mount that on a very thin layer of basic black cardstock. And I'm using my snail adhesive. I put some of that in my four corners. And I'm going to mount that onto this layer here, leaving a real thin border just to accentuate the colors. That is going to go right here on the base of our card. So again, more adhesive in our corners. And that's going to get mounted here on the base of the card. I've cut myself a small piece of Whisper White cardstock to house part of the greeting. And I'm using Memento ink, and I'm using the word birthday. And this comes from the stamp set, Marquee Messages. Really fun, whimsical, very retro styled, but the separated words here really gives me a lot of usage to play it up with other stamps and images. The one thing about your stamp sets, mix and match. Don't be afraid to take greetings from one and put them with another. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up birthday in my Memento ink. And I'm a big fan of Memento ink when it comes to photopolymer. And I'm going to leave a little room on the left side because I want to be able to make a banner tip there. Okay, so now we've got birthday. I'm going to give that just a second to dry, and then we'll go ahead and do the banner tips on that. But while that's drying, let's go ahead and let's do some die cutting. I'm going to use the brand new framelit, Happy Birthday. I'm having a ball with this, and you've probably seen me make other cards with it. It is extremely versatile, and you're going to see today how I'm going to separate this to use these words individually. I'm starting with my magnetic platform, and I am putting the precision base plate right over the top. Whenever you have a very intricate die like this one, this thing is a lifesaver. It makes all the difference in the world on how well it die cuts. So here's a piece of Whisper White. I'm going to lay that on top, and then I'm going to put a clear mat on top of that to protect it. You're not going to need a clear mat on the bottom like you're used to, simply because the precision base plate takes the place of that. And then this just gets cranked through. So you can see I always check to make sure that it looks like it's die cut. What a beautiful job that is. And now I'm going to use my Big Shot die brush to go ahead and help me get those little pieces out. So I've got my foam in a used paper pumpkin box. Absolutely love that. I'm going to place that on top of the foam mat, and I've got my brush, and kind of like a rolling pin, you're just going to press firmly and roll over the die while the paper is in it. And that's going to help release all the small pieces. Not going to poke it all out for you, but it's certainly going to save a lot of time. So here is that. And I've got my paper piercing tool here. But if you don't have it handy, here's a tip for you. Leave a thumbtack right inside that foam mat so that you've got a little pokey something handy for you there at all times. Because I'll tell you what, oftentimes I cannot find this paper piercing tool near the Big Shot when I need it. So I found that that little thumbtack trick worked really, really well for me. So these little holes in the die are there to help you release the die without ripping it, because naturally if you would turn this over and start pulling, as thin as this is, you're going to rip those little pieces, and that's like the last thing you want. So just a little bit of poking is all you need to do, and you're going to see how it's starting to release from the back. And then I'm just really careful just to pull it off, especially on the ends. So there we go, we have Happy Birthday, and there's one little piece that didn't come out. There we go. And now I'm going to do this exact same thing, but this time I'm going to do it on black cardstock. I'm going to take my paper snips, and I'm going to cut away what I don't want. And I'm just going to do my very best to follow the exact same line that was in the die. I'm going to cut this part away too, and then we've got another one here. Especially on the back piece, this is the black itself is going to be in the rear, so it's not going to be as noticeable if you don't have a perfect cut. And then we'll round this one off just a little bit more. Okay, so now we've got that one. Remember too, on the white piece, we're going to do the exact same thing, because we only want the word happy for this card. And if you want, go ahead and save the birthday for something else. You might have the words happy in a stamp in your artillery in your stamp room, and then you've got another card in just seconds. The one thing I love too about the word happy is that you can use it for other cards as well. Be a great get well card or a cheer up card for a friend. Okay, I'm moving you in closer so that you can see. I've set the black one aside, and now I've got the white one. And we're going to anchor this down on our work surface, and I'm going to use Post-it notes. This is going to allow it to be sticky, and it's going to hold it in place. Now we want to just mask half of the words off. And how deep or how tall you go are completely up to you. So I've got one here, and I'm going to do another one here to the other side, trying to form as straight of a line as I possibly can right across the word happy. The same two color inks that we use for the balloon. This is the pool party. And the other is the Pear Pizzazz. I'm using sponge daubers. Now, these look a little discolored. Don't let that bother you. I actually use soap and water, and I let them air dry. And then they're clean, so I can use them in other colors. So this one is clean, but it's been used. It's just from the pigmentation of the prior ink that it looks this way. So I'm going to start with the pear. I'm going to ink up the dauber in the pad. I know I'm just a little bit off camera there. Okay. And I'm going to daub off a little bit because I want to be able to control it. And I'm just going to work very carefully. What you don't want to do is be so vigorous that you rip the little piece of paper with the word happy on it, because it is really delicate. So you can blot or you can gently pull. And I mean, I'm gently pulling. The more ink that you put, the darker it's going to be. And you're going to want to let the paper have a little bit of time to absorb the color before you try to place another coat over the top if you want it darker. And I'm going to work really close to that line where the Post-it note is so I have some definition. So I'm not going to make this one probably as dark as I did my first one. Now when you're happy with it, you're going to carefully pull off your Post-it notes, and they should stay stuck together in that nice line that you just created. And then now we're going to reverse it. So we are actually going to put this right here. Now I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to overlap them just slightly. Otherwise you're going to have a white line. I did that. I made that mistake the first one that I made. Pushing to make sure that I've got some good adhesion. I do want to make sure I don't have too much ink on my fingers from pressing there. And now another dauber. This one of course is stained, but it's clean. And this is the Pool Party, the same one that we used a few minutes ago to do the balloons. All right, so we've sponged in the word happy on the bottom. Now we're going to carefully lift off our Post-it notes. And look at that. We have a beautiful two-toned image. Isn't that fun? Now let me show you how to put the layers together. So we've got our black and we've got the one that we have sponged. Now there's lots of ways you can do this, but I'll be honest with you, I found fine tip glue dried a little bit too quickly for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm going to put a little bit up here in the corner of my pad. That's my silicone craft sheet. I'm in total love with that. Inside a storage container that's airtight sealed, I've got sponges on a binder clip, and I keep those stored in here simply because the air will actually crust up the glue and really kind of ruin the sponge as well as your project. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to pick up some glue on the sponge from that little corner, and I'm going to dab it. And you're going to find that you're not going to need a whole lot because this stuff is really strong. And you just want to be careful when you pull. All right, so now I've got that. I'm going to lay this down here on a clean section. I don't want too much glue on it until I'm ready. And I'm just slightly going to offset this. No two of your cards are going to be the same. So some might be a little bit more offset than others. Going to flip over and gently tap from the back to make sure I've got good contact with one another. And I'm going to move this so that you can see. Look. Isn't that neat how we've got that shadow? All right, so let's go ahead and put this on our card. Here is our word happy. On my original card, do you see how it's lifted? Do you see those? Those are the brand new mini dimensionals, and they were still a little big. So I actually had to cut some of them in half, and I did that while they were right here on the paper. Some of them I even had to cut again. So if this is too fussy for you, then go ahead and use your glue, which is what I'm going to do today for the sake of the video. And I'm actually going to adhere this just to the card. With that other layer that's on there, it's really going to look just as good, I promise. That shadowing behind the words is going to make this card just pop. All right, so we're going to set that aside. And here we go. We've got our word happy. I'm going to center that here in the middle of the card. And I'm going to press. I like to rub from the back in case I've got residual ink all over my hands, which I often do. And then remember, we stamped the word birthday. So we're going to create a banner tip on there. So we'll make a small slit right in the center. That's going to help determine the center point so the banner is even. And then from the outside corner, from the top of the slit on both sides, we're going to snip with our paper snips. Okay, I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to grab a couple of the larger dimensionals, or I should say the original size dimensionals, right? Take off that paper backing, and I'm going to mount this all the way here flush with the side. And I'm going to put those close together just so that my greeting is not too far apart from one another, giving those a little bit of a flip. So there you go. Cute, huh? Remember, today's is nice and flat with the glue. The one I made before you joined me is up on dimensionals. It is a little bit fussy, but boy, is it fun. Those new mini dimensionals make that so much easier to achieve. I don't see much of a difference, do you? The card today, the one I made before you joined me. I'm so glad that you were here today. Remember, all the cutting dimensions, supplies, and photographs are on my blog. Click on the I button here at the top of the screen. We'll navigate you right to that blog post, easy for you to find. Remember, while you're there, to check on the online classes tab. I've got 2 fun ways for you to stamp with me from home. Thanks so much for joining me today, everyone. I hope you have a great day. See you next time.